Hello and welcome to episode 177 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me on this bleak and treacherous journey is Joe Sherville.
You forget what you want to remember, and you remember what you want to forget.
Yes, and that is the doctrine of the How to Survive podcast. If you hadn't guessed, or if you hadn't glanced at your podcatcher of choice, this week we are covering the 2009 John Hillcoat movie, The Road. Now, this is a listener recommendation from Josh M, who sent this in way back in October 2018. All that time ago, Joe.
Yeah.
And he said that we should cover The Road. It could be said that it's set post-nuclear war, which is sure to give Joe the willies. And of course, nuclear war is your big phobia.
Yeah, we discussed this in the past when we covered
Terminator 2. Yeah. The most sober and realistic nuclear war film.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily think The Road is about nuclear war.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in depth, I think, later. But if you haven't seen The Road, or indeed read the Cormac McCarthy novel on which it's based, now is your chance to hide away from the podcast.
Yeah, pause here, go read the novel, then watch the movie, and return for digestion.
Yeah, and it's an instance, a rare occurrence that the novel and film are, I think, both extremely good.
We'll talk about it. We will talk about it.
More about The Road after this.
Officials have declared a state of emergency.
What's happening?
I don't know. It cannot be contained.
Advise of a sudden drop in temperature. What you see is happening now.
How many people do you think are still alive?
In the world? Not very many. It's a treat for you.
It's bubbly.
We won't survive another winter here.
Yeah, they keep moving. Head south to the coast.
That boy looks hungry. Why don't y'all come on the truck?
You look at him again, I'll shoot you in the head.
At an unspecified point in time, the world suffers a cataclysm resulting in the loss of all animal life, the permanent clouding of the sky, a precipitous fall in global temperature, and a steady stream of ash falling from the sky.
Don't forget that every night there seems to be just walls of flame everywhere.
Yeah. The nature of this incident is never outlined, but it seems clear that it will eventually result in the permanent loss of all life from Earth. This is a total extinction event. We follow a man and his boy as they make a grueling journey south, hoping to find warmer climes. The man is clearly dying of a respiratory illness. Years earlier, the man's wife gave birth to their boy shortly after the cataclysm, and later, bereft of hope, dies by suicide when she walks out into the night with no coat. We learn that in this ravaged world, people have resorted to cannibalism, and so the man approaches any encounter with other travellers with extreme caution and suspicion. He keeps a gun with 2 bullets with the purpose of killing his son and himself should they be captured by cannibals, but later uses one to rescue his son from a scavenger who takes him hostage. Later, the pair discover a mansion and, to their horror, find starving people kept hostage as cattle in the basement. As the cannibals return, the man and boy hide, with the man preparing to shoot the son, but the captives escape, distracting the cannibals long enough for them to evade detection. The pair find a bunker stocked with supplies and stay there a night in relative comfort, washing themselves and eating canned food. The next morning, they hear a dog in the distance, and the man decides it is too dangerous for them to stay, so they leave. In one ruined town, the boy sees another boy his age, but is prevented from following him by the man who believes he was daydreaming, or just that it's too dangerous, really.
Yeah, but the film suggests that he wasn't because we also saw the person.
Yeah. Further along the road, the boy convinces the man to share some of their food with a lone blind traveller. They finally reach the coast and find no relief. As the man swims to a shipwreck to gather supplies, the boy falls asleep and is unaware as a thief steals their trolley loaded with supplies. The man chases the thief and threatens him with a flare gun, forcing him to strip, leaving him naked and afraid by the side of the road. This distresses the boy so much that they eventually return to look for him, but are unable to find him.
But they leave his clothes and some tin peaches in case he ever comes back.
Yeah, that man's dead. As they pass through a town, the man is shot in the leg by an arrow. He fires the flare gun at the assailant, killing him, and finds his partner in the same room, devastated at the assailant's death. He asks her why she was following them, but she claims it was the other way around. He leaves her crying over her companion's body. Weakened, the man and boy abandon their cart and most of their possessions. The man's condition deteriorates and eventually he dies. The boy is approached by a man who, with his wife, 2 children and dog, convinces the boy he is one of the good guys and takes him under his protection. The wife says they have been following the boy and his father.
Yep.
And that is how The Road ends.
Cheery stuff.
It is the best comedy of 2009. Had you seen The Road before?
I saw it when it first came out. I'm a big
Date movie?
Yeah, first date. I did go on a date once to see Babel. That wasn't a good date movie.
No.
When you're 15.
Didn't you also go on a date with your now wife to see The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And The Happening.
Good movies all round.
Yeah, I mean, I've got good taste in films, but I'm a terrible person to go on a date with.
Yeah, that's the only thing that spoiled those encounters.
Yeah.
What do you think of The Road?
I'm a big Cormac McCarthy fan, mate, as you know. I think Cormac McCarthy is to me what the Coen brothers are to you, probably.
Okay, right. So right up there.
Yeah. I think the movie is very good. It's very moving, very involving and genuinely upsetting throughout.
Yes.
Like you genuinely felt like the man and the boy have gone through what they've gone through. It's very convincing performances.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so relentlessly bleak that it's very hard to watch it in one sitting. I kept having to sort of like pause it and like go and make a cup of tea, you know?
Yeah.
Each character along the way is largely believable, though you have exceptionally little time, I think, for the cannibal or hunter types. But what I mean is like, take the thief, played by Michael K. Williams from The Wire, for instance, or the woman in the room at the end who's like, "Oh, you killed my husband."
Yeah.
Right? They offer a bit of nuance in terms of like, they're doing bad things, but there's a reason for that. It's because they are also starving and dying, right?
Yeah.
And I think like the thief, as the character's called, says, "I'm just like you. I'm just trying to do the exact same thing you are."
Yeah.
And if
that's all anyone's trying to do.
Exactly,
in this world,
right?
Yeah.
And when she says like, he says, you were following me, and she said, no, you're following us.
Yeah.
It's like, that's perfect because it's like, oh, everyone's out to get each other, but no one's out to get
everyone's paranoid. It's that is, I think, one of the it's an upsetting scene in a film that is just full of upsetting scenes.
Yeah.
Because it just feels so needless.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he goes up there and just has a conversation with the woman, essentially, who's devastated about the loss of her husband, just shows that
that's all it ever needed.
Yeah. No one needed to die.
Yeah.
And 2 people do.
Yeah. And
the result of it is that a woman and a child are now left alone in this world.
Brilliant. I mean, yeah, but those characters and those interactions lend nuance to what is an otherwise exceptionally bleak thing. You feel like everyone's out to get the man and the boy, but then you say, oh, actually, no, they're not quite. The cannibal prison guards are less sympathetic.
So here is where I think it diverges from a lot of like not very good horror movies that we would have watched. How many films have you seen where the characters who are cannibals, in some films it wouldn't even be that they are humans anymore. They would have like morphed into monsters like I Am Legend or whatever. But the really upsettingly scary thing about these people is that they are still people.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I wonder whether they do look like hillbillies, though. Do you know what I mean? The casting is like they look like rough people. If they've made them, in old Christian art, the devil is made to look like attractive, right? And it's more scary because you're like, oh, you're always scared of things when they look scary, right? But they look like they could be cannibals in this movie. Maybe it would have been more interesting if they were like, they look like normal people.
Yeah.
I don't think they do in the film.
But then I don't know if I completely agree, because I don't think that any of them, they don't necessarily look any better shape than the man and the boy.
Yeah, that's true.
And the opening monologue, he says the real fear is cannibalism. But he doesn't necessarily state whether the fear is that
giving or receiving of it.
Right. That you'll suffer cannibalism or be driven to it.
That's fair. That's a fair
and
point.
It's such a relentless and horrible film.
Yeah.
Right.
In a good way.
Yeah. Intentionally so.
Yeah.
The novel famously, I think, has very little punctuation. Almost, right. Or is it syntax or whatever?
Yeah, it's written in a kind of stream of consciousness, dreamlike way.
Yeah.
Whereas like it feels like it's written by someone who doesn't know writing conventions.
Yeah.
Which is ingenious because you don't know, like, time kind of slips around and sentences slip around. It's a very long poem in a sense.
But the effect of it is that it's relentless. There are no chapters, there are no line breaks. It is one relentless stream passage of text.
Yeah.
Until the end. And the film basically, I think, does a really good job of adapting that feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the opening 10 to 15 minutes of the film, right, you have a scene which shows the man and the boy encountering a group who have hanged themselves. Or
as a
been
family
hanged.
Well, family, I think they did hang themselves, it's implied.
Yeah.
There's no sense of foul play.
Right. It's a family who have hanged themselves, which is directly followed by a scene where the man teaches the boy how best to shoot himself in the head, which is immediately followed by a scene where a mother is so desperate not to give birth to her son because what kind of life is this?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that scene where they discuss this thing is when she's still pregnant, actually, they're talking. Maybe it's the scene I think where she decides that she's going to die.
Yeah.
And he says, "You sound crazy," and she doesn't reply. And it's like,
she's the sanest person.
Exactly. Yeah, he's the crazy one for wanting to stay alive.
Yeah,
which is like that's.
It is all of the scenes involving Charlize Theron, who plays the wife,
the woman,
are harrowing.
Yeah.
From her desperation not to give birth, right through to the scene where she won't even say goodbye to her son because somehow she knows, I think, that she wouldn't be able to go through with walking out into the wilderness to die if she says goodbye to her son. And it's like the bleakness of not being able to carry on with such a desperate situation to the extent that you force yourself not to see your child.
Yeah, to take the one solace you have in that world.
Yeah. And it really is no solace, is it?
No. Yeah. Well, you say it's I still don't think you're suggesting the film's grammar reflects the book's grammar.
Well, not necessarily the film's grammar, but it is just an unrelentingly nasty film, isn't it? It not nasty. Nasty suggests that it's like sort of cannibal holocaust and it's, viscerally unpleasant to make you wince.
Yeah.
This is more just saying these are the realities of the world that we're portraying.
Yeah. No, it is believable in that sense. I don't think it ever escapes feeling like an adaptation of a book, though. I mean, it doesn't help that I know that it's an adaptation of a book, but when you have moments like Charlize Theron walking out into the night, right?
Yeah.
That is an incredibly... it's a 5-minute scene, and you get like a bit of build up to it, and you're like, the tension of... You know she's going to do it because, you know, you can fill in the blanks in the movie, but just it's harrowing.
Mm.
And then she walks out into the darkness, and then you get Viggo Mortensen reading a quote from the book. It's obviously just the lines of the film. It's like, that was the last time I saw her. And then it's a little bit of poetry. But it took me out of it. I was like, you don't need to have the words from the book read out in the middle of the film.
Is that actually in the book? Because it's been some years since I read it. But I know that even though there's sparingly few scenes which involve Charlize Theron, there's even fewer that involve his wife in the book, which sort of gives the implication that it's so painful for him that he can't even think about it.
Yeah. If you take No Country for Old Men, right, as another example, that's another Cormac McCarthy work which was adapted.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's done very patiently and lets you basically think the words in your head. There's no narration. You don't get like Llewellyn, like, that was the time I was most scared of Anton Chigurh, right? You don't need that because the Coen brothers do a very real job of you thinking those words in your head. I think it doesn't. The road doesn't benefit from narration, and it just makes it feel like they're crowbarring in Cormac McCarthy's words because they are very impactful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
he won a Pulitzer Prize for it, but I think including them is maybe one of the reasons that they didn't win an Oscar.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't
show don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. And like that is, I don't know.
It's interesting that you used No Country for Old Men as a comparison because the scene that always sticks out for me in that film when I think about it is the way the story is told in the scenes where Llewellyn finds the suitcase with the money.
Yeah.
Because there's basically not a single line of dialogue from the point at which he sets out to hunt and from when he gets back.
That's the beginning of the film, right? It's 20 minutes of silence or something like that.
It's not the very beginning of the film because it opens with Chigurh, I think, being arrested and then killing his
You better come down here, Sheriff. We got
right. But the scenes with Llewellyn is basically it's lots of things where he like looks through his rifle scope and sees the cars, and then the next scene is him, you know, half a mile closer, and then him approaching, and then him finding the suitcase, and him like surveying the scene of all these dead bodies, and then taking the money, and then he sees a blood trail, and then he follows it to a tree where he finds a dead man, or like a dying man, I think.
Because he wants water.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it's just that whole section of the film. Basically, you're right in that in a lesser film or a less confident film, it would have had, you know, the character probably literally saying out loud,
blood.
Yeah. I wonder why these guys were shooting each other. Or like, you know, basically talking to the audience.
Well, he kind of does. Where's the last man? But then you need that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like it's I think it's an apt point of comparison.
Yeah. I think No Country for Old Men was written originally as a screenplay,
right?
Which certainly helps its adaptation.
Yeah, although it's like a distinctly unfilmic screenplay, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so, oh man.
We should cover that.
Yeah, it's such a good film. I think it's my favourite film ever.
Yeah, bad haircut season.
Yeah.
That said, I think The Road is filmically pretty well put together because of how unflashy it is. There's no sort of...
you believe the environment.
Yeah, it's basically like you're watching a documentary
it does
about the end of the world.
Do you know what? You'll probably agree with this. I think, I don't know whether the timings work out, but I assume when they made The Last of Us, the video game, they just went
the road of the game,
but a man and a woman instead.
Yeah, almost certainly. Yeah, I'm sure this was an enormous influence on it. And despite what we were just saying, there is some really great visual storytelling in the film. For example, one thing that I noticed around watching it this time around, when they arrive at the mansion, they go to an outhouse, and we see from like the boy's perspective that there are a number of what look like barbecues set out around the garden.
Yeah.
And then he looks over and there's a hook,
Yeah.
and
But before
which
he
is a
can
meat
say anything,
hook.
he gets dragged off.
Oh yeah, which is a meat hook, and
Yeah.
obviously, when you've seen the film before, you know that it's for the slaughter and cooking of humans,
Yeah.
which is like, you know, distinctly unpleasant.
Likewise, when they get in the house, there's a pile of shoes, which I don't think Viggo Mortensen notices, and the kid's like, "Hey, look!" And he's like, "Shut up, come here." It's like, if he'd just been like, "Why is there a gigantic pile of shoes in the middle of the room?" They would have solved a lot of problems.
It is awful. It's so hideous.
I think the shoes and the whether intentionally or not, the shoes and the people who lie on the stairs makes you think of concentration
Yeah,
camps.
it invokes the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think that's intentional?
I would imagine the image of piles of shoes.
And emaciated people.
Yeah,
afterwards.
I think that is so clearly invoking. That is very tied into the Holocaust, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of imagery. What do you think of the ending? Because my opinion is that the soundtrack at the film's climax, right, makes it feel like a way nicer ending than it actually is.
Yeah. No, do you know what? I paused the movie when it ended and went and did about my business, right?
Yeah.
Later on, I came back and had to return to my TV. I pressed play again.
Yeah, just in case there's a post-credits scene.
Yeah, right. And I was like, the score was like Forrest Gump. I was like, why is it so cheery? And this is like, I didn't notice it initially, but it's just weird that it came up.
Yeah, because basically the ending is only optimistic if you until you think about it for a fraction of a second, because basically whatever awaits them, regardless of how many more, like, the world that awaits them doesn't matter how many of them there are.
No, exactly.
Like, in fact, if they're a larger group, that makes them a
more
lot
vulnerable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. More mouths to feed. Yeah.
Right. And they've got a dog.
Yeah.
They'll be easier to spot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's basically only an uplifting ending if you ignore everything that's happened in the film up until that point.
So I have a particular theory about what's happened to lead to this and why the ending might not be quite as bad as you think.
Okay.
Right. So I'm getting a bit ahead. I knew we were going to talk about what is the apocalypse?
Yeah, well, should we talk about that now?
Let's get ahead of it. Right?
So what is it that you think happened?
So a lot of the discussion in the movie is very religiously focused, right?
Okay.
And I think it's very, there's some very emotional moments where the man's narration or him talking to other characters suggests his opinion of the boy, right? And it frames him in a certain way.
Right.
So I think personally that it's the rapture.
Okay.
And obviously it could be anything. This is just me interpreting different clues. And I know there's going to be, it's deliberately ambiguous, but this is one reading of it, which I quite like.
What is it that he says about the boy? If he is not the word of God, then God surely never spoke.
Yeah. If he is not the word of God, God never spoke. Other things are, there is no God and we are his prophets, or where men can't live, gods fare no better. Right. Then if you look at the Christian telling of the rapture, usually there's trumpets and people are sent to heaven and others get left behind, things like that, right? But I think that he views the boy as God on earth.
Okay.
Whether that's literal or not, I think that's true. And the old man seems to agree with him.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, I thought he was an angel.
Yeah.
Is what he says when I saw him standing there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the words of the woman at the end, the motherly woman, as she's credited. She says, and if you assume that he is the second coming of Jesus Christ, because it's the rapture, right?
Yeah.
She says, I'm so glad to see you. We were following you. Did you know that? We saw you and your father. We're so lucky. We were so worried about you, and now we don't have to worry about a thing.
I like it. I like it. It nicely ties up.
Yeah.
So is Joseph the name of the man?
Well,
the father
I did change
of the
one
Son
word
of
there.
God.
She actually says Papa, not father, but
Right.
It's the same meaning.
Yeah.
That made it it just made sense to me when I was like, okay, yeah, she was like crying with relief when she was talking to him, and you're like, that doesn't make much sense unless you think that she believes it's the
I
Son
guess
of God.
that the fact that they didn't approach them sooner is reflective of the world that they're in, right?
Yeah.
Because the reason that they don't approach him sooner is because they don't want the man to attack them.
Right. And
They're basically
fairly
they're
done.
basically following a man and child, waiting for the man to die so that they can look after the child better, I suppose, is their idea, right? Because why else would they follow him?
So they don't necessarily know the man's dying. I think they were just waiting for a good moment, and that seemed like one.
Maybe. Here's what the man says about whatever it is that has happened to the world.
Okay.
The clocks stopped at 1:17. There was a long sheer of bright light, then a series of low concussions.
Right, yeah.
I think it's October, but I can't be sure. I haven't kept a calendar for years. Each day is more grey than the one before. It is cold and growing colder as the world slowly dies. No animals have survived, and all the crops are long gone. Someday, all the trees in the world will fall.
It's very religious, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. I mean,
The bright light and concussion suggest a nuclear bomb.
yeah.
Like
So that's
Josh
I
said
think,
when he emailed in.
right. So I think nuclear war is a possibility for
But
certain.
then there's no fallout.
There's no radiation,
Yeah.
right? The other suggestion is that it's an environmental cataclysm, but that most of what we imagine environmental cataclysms to be don't line up with the idea of there being a bright light or a series of low cataclysms.
It could be a volcanic eruption, for example.
Well,
which would kick up enough ash to block out the sun and kill all the trees.
it's interesting that you say that, because here's a quote from Cormac McCarthy.
I love volcanoes. I've always wanted to write a book about volcanoes.
When he was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal around the time of the movie. Okay. The last time the caldera in Yellowstone blew, the entire North American continent was under about a foot of ash. People who've gone diving in Yellowstone Lake say that there is a bulge in the floor that is now about 100 feet high, and the whole thing is just sort of pulsing. From different people you get different answers, but it could go in another 3,000 to 4,000 years, or it could go on Thursday. No one knows.
Fuck me. Yeah.
So I think it's
Thursday.
Yellowstone.
Today's Friday.
I think it's Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happened. I think canonically
Makes
in
sense.
the film,
Yeah, because they're in America, North America.
yeah, there's a ton of ash which would block out the sun, killing all the plants and the crops, which would kill all the animals. There'd be a bright light,
Yeah.
series of low concussions.
Yeah. Makes sense. Impacts. Secondary explosions.
And it is raining ash.
Yeah, volcano makes sense.
Yeah. Which is probably not the not by any means the most covered post-apocalypse scenario.
No. Do you remember when was it the Icelandic volcano blew? And
Yeah.
all the flights were grounded and stuff.
Mhm.
There was an ash cloud then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fucked.
But that. I wonder how small that volcano is compared to Yellowstone.
I mean, Yellowstone is like
Yellowstone is
It'll
a
kill
well,
everything.
yeah. It's an extinction level event, as they call it. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
woof.
Is this the most upsetting film we've ever covered?
Without a doubt, yeah. I mean, like I said, I had to keep breaking for cups of tea,
Yeah.
but also I kept having to take like deep breaths to stop myself from like bursting into tears. There's like the key parts that affected me were the boy like squealing and crying when his dad's like washing his wound, where he fucking nearly blew his head off trying to save his life, and the kid's crying, and they're just like they're framed in just darkness and like by a lake, and the dad's like just like staring into the middle distance, and you're like, this is like a war zone. Like, you know, you see pictures of like people in Syria and stuff with their kids who are wounded. You're like, they it's just tragic.
Yeah.
This is just hopelessly tragic.
Here's something that's just occurred to me from what you've just said. When his son gets taken hostage, do you think he's trying to shoot his son?
I think that's possible.
Because he fires the shot and the pair of them collapse to the floor, and his son becomes basically catatonic, like staring at the sky.
Yeah.
and there's a shot of him which they hang on him staring
Yeah.
for an amount of time to make you believe that he might be dead,
Yeah.
and then he blinks, and it's only then that the man is like moved into action. So I wonder if that is genuinely like
he doesn't get cut, does he? He gets his throat shot.
who's that?
The boy. I think the wound
is it like
the
is it
wound isn't
graze, right?
Yeah. The
Yeah,
wound
yeah.
is a bullet wound, not
Yeah.
a knife wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he was. Oh God, it's just every time I think about this film, it's so horrible.
Other scenes that are upsetting were Charlize Theron walking into the darkness, but like just like refusing to hug him,
Yeah,
and it's like
and he's begging her.
you understand it, right? You understand her perspective because of
Yeah,
what's going on, but you're like, oh, like for him and for her and for every like it's just tremendously sad.
yeah. It's you're constantly being posed the question, how could this get any worse?
Yeah.
And then the next scene goes, oh, this much worse.
Yeah.
This is how bad it could get.
Yeah. I think that there is I don't know, the shot. There's a shot which may or may not be intentionally put there to make you finally burst into tears after you've been holding it in for the whole movie. But the kid's like looking at all the family and like looks at the mum, looks at the dad, and they're like not quite smiling, but
Yeah.
looks at the boy and girl, and then looks at the dog, and you go, oh, that was the dog
Yeah.
from before.
That was the
They've-
dog that
they've
made
been-
them leave the bunker.
Yeah, they've been looking out for them in a way, this whole time.
But then that indirectly leads
Cause-
to them dying. Or the
And you're like-
man dying.
All it would take was one conversation.
Yeah, it's basically the last 10 minutes of The Mist made 10 times longer and even more harrowing
Yeah.
somehow, right? Most horror movies, and we complain about this a lot, have elements or moments that are emotionally resonant, right? But they always feel cheap because they're never grounded in like a relatable or, like a depth.
So what's an example?
I mean, how many slashers have we seen where there's a pregnant woman or,
right, yeah.
we're just married. Oh, I love you too. Oh, like when I get out of here, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get my degree. Right.
It's my last day on the force.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All that sort of shit is always, it's just so you go, I really hope this person doesn't die, right? It's all those emotional moments, right? But they're really cheap. This is all emotion, right? There's almost nothing except the emotionally resonant things, right? Every scene in the movie forces you to confront the idea of killing your son, your wife, yourself, letting other people die, and confront the idea of whether death is actually better than carrying on living, right?
Yeah.
And it's less of if you think of horror movies is a genre named after reaction and emotion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is not a horror movie. This is just like an upset movie.
Yeah.
This is like
Yeah.
a like depression movie.
You said that before about a movie. Was it The Witch or Hereditary? An upset movie.
I don't know. Maybe Hereditary because the things that happen in that are so
Upsetting.
yeah grievous. Yeah.
Yeah. You do feel like you've been electrocuted a bit after this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think this is the worst? Like we've watched a few films that have a sort of vision of the future. Do you think this is the worst? The most nightmarish?
This is bad. Yeah. I think Terminator 2 is pretty bad because you're being hunted as well. Like these guys aren't being hunted. It's just like, just don't run into anyone troublesome.
Yeah.
Whereas if they were giant, if in the road there were giant mechs walking around just fucking people up, that would be even scarier.
Yeah, no, that is true.
Yeah. But then I've always thought with Terminators, and in the context of the road, like you say, right, in the road you're like, oh, should I kill my son now to get it over with? Should I kill myself? In the Terminator, you'd be like, well, at least I'm not going to be eaten by other people,
Yeah.
right? There's
At
no
least
cannibalism.
all
in
the
Terminator.
humans have banded together
Yeah.
to Terminate.
Yeah,
Right.
against the machines.
Like you say, oh, it would be worse if mechs were walking around.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it's even worse that...
Humans are the ones to fit.
Right.
Yeah. That we didn't mention the scene where the woman and her daughter are just running across the field and get gunned down, and you're like,
Oh yeah. Well, they don't get gunned down.
oh,
They get caught up
earthquake.
with, and then they you hear her getting bludgeoned to death.
Oh yeah. Well, you hope that's what it is.
Yeah. Well,
Or
she
worse. Or,
she's screaming, and then you hear like a thud of something metallic, and the screaming like abruptly stops.
Then there's an earthquake, and the trees fall down.
Yeah.
What a film!
Great.
What a
stuff.
lovely film.
It's a pretty miserable experience, I would
Yeah.
say, watching
Yeah.
this.
Why do you think? Why do you think it? Like, I mean, obviously, Cormac McCarthy won a Pulitzer Prize for it, right? The story itself and
Obviously.
his writing, obviously, mate. Because why wouldn't he? Why didn't this didn't get nominated for an Oscar? Your beloved film, mate, didn't even get nominated for an Oscar.
I don't know. I guess it's not it's by no means the sort of film that would attract Oscar nominations. If you look at, I mean, we're recording this the week that the Oscar nominations came out.
Yeah,
If you look at the nomination list,
yeah, period dramas and a superhero film.
Green Book,
Green Book.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, you wouldn't put The Road in there. I don't know. But you think an adaptation of a Cormac McCarthy novel, No Country for Old Men, did win an Oscar.
Yeah, but some idiots wank themselves silly about the Coen brothers. So.
I don't know.
So, Joe, as I said, it's a miserable film. But what do you really know about miserable things? Let's
Okay.
find out in Chris's miserable quiz.
It was either going to be this or what do you know about roads?
Roads in movies quiz.
I did have that in mind. Revolutionary Road, Fury
Yeah.
Road,
Road to Perdition.
Yeah.
This is Chris's miserable quiz.
Chris Miserable.
Question 1. In 2005, what did scientists do to Ming the clam, the world's oldest living creature?
Killed it.
Correct. They killed it by accidentally snapping its shell in half.
How do you accidentally snap a clam shell in half?
It was 507 years old.
What were they doing?
They were trying to open it to...
To look inside and they killed it.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Question 2. What do pigs and humans have in common?
Their hearts.
They can both experience depression.
Mm.
Question 3. What percentage of people who collapse on the street and receive CPR survive?
13.
2%. Question 4. What are there more of? Amur leopards left in the world or episodes of the How to Survive podcast?
Episodes.
Correct. There are 177 episodes of the How to Survive podcast and only 84 Amur leopards. Question 5. True or false, your brain starts to deteriorate at age 35.
False, it's 25.
False, it starts to deteriorate at age 27. Question
Great.
6. What does the Mars rover do once a year?
Sings itself happy birthday. I knew that.
Correct. It sings happy birthday to itself, all alone. Question number 7. How many times did Pluto get to orbit the Sun as a planet?
None.
0. It orbits once every 248 years. Pluto was discovered in 1930 and reclassified in 2006, meaning it made less than a third of its way around the Sun. Poor little Pluto. I think you got 4 or 5 of those right. Does that make you feel happy, does it?
I wonder whether you carry a bit too much on your shoulders about Mars rovers and Pluto. Lots of space misery for you. A lot of people would find a large number
big
of
space.
How to Survive episodes to be a happy thing.
Maybe.
Are these the things that keep you up at night?
Some of them.
Are you like, you're laying awake and your girlfriend gets up for a glass of water. Oh, you still awake? And you go, yeah, just thinking about the number of times Pluto's revolved around the sun.
the fraction of one orbit that Pluto
Yeah.
managed. All right, then. Well done.
Thanks.
How would you survive in the road?
Only one idea from me. If you're into, you can drop the act now.
It's not an act.
Yeah. Try those eyes. Come on. Yeah. If I was in the movie, I would, before entering any dark space, call out rather than just like walk in to darkness using a lighter as my only source of light.
Which scene in particular are you thinking of?
Two come to mind.
Okay.
Well, there's a few times, but two stick out. The first is when he walks into the cannibal's basement,
Mm-hmm.
and the second is when he goes into the bunker with all the food in it.
Okay.
And admittedly, the bunker turned out to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
The cannibal basement, less so.
Although they're not really a threat to him, are they?
But they might have been.
They might have been, yeah. Just to play devil's advocate, if you were the victim of a cannibal gang and someone opened the basement and came downstairs and said, "Hello," how would you react?
Hi! Come on down.
Come on in. Or would you hide in the dark and hope they don't notice you or find you?
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, it's good. I guess it's best practice. Maybe he could do it so often that he would actually develop a sort of sense of whether or not there was anyone down there by the reflection of his voice, the echo.
Echolocation.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that would work?
No. I don't know. Maybe. Try it.
Yeah. What when we're in the rapture?
Yeah,
and,
when the rapture happens.
I'll go shouting into caves.
Yeah. Well, if it was you and I after the rapture, would you be telling old men that you think I'm the son of God? That I'm God on earth?
Yeah, I'd be saying, yeah, if he is not the word of God, then surely God never spoke.
Rodger Hauer would be sat there just staring into the middle distance.
Rutger Hauer?
Yeah. Is that him, isn't it?
No, it's Robert Duvall, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Here's my one How to Survive tip. I only have one as well. It's not a film that makes you think of many ways to carry on living. If you're approaching children, maybe try not to come across as the most sinister possible person imaginable.
Right, yeah. I'm going to take your gun and stop pointing at me. Okay.
Yeah, so this is advice for the character played by Guy Pearce at the end.
Guy Pearce with false teeth.
Yeah.
With Austin Powers teeth.
Yeah. He's called Veteran, is what he's credited as.
The thing is, there's a cast of characters which are like immensely good.
Yeah.
In any film, you'd be like, oh, I'd like to see them in a film.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
But you have 5 seconds of each character plus 90 minutes of Viggo Mortensen shaking.
Do you think Viggo Mortensen and Charlize Theron and stuff like that involved in the film lends an air of unbelievability to it, in as much as like these are celebrities?
Well, I know what you're saying, but the reality of it is that the film would never get funded without people like Viggo Mortensen in it.
You're telling me that an adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's...
If Rutger Hauer was in the lead role,
Rutger Hauer as the boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, don't come across... But because if you're that kid, you've just lost your father, you've got the gun, the last thing he said to you is,
don't fucking about with anyone.
Yeah, don't
fuck it about with anyone. Yeah,
don't get eaten by cannibals.
Yeah.
Cannibals might be creepy looking men. Yeah. Don't get eaten by
I think maybe, is it Cody Smith McPhee, his name?
Yeah.
He is a bit too old to be believable in that role, because I think he's meant to be a bit more like vulnerable.
Right, okay.
Because it would make sense him pointing a gun and being like, are you a good guy?
Yeah.
Because he's like a preteen in this. But if he was like 8, you'd be a bit more like, he doesn't really have decision-making skills yet.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's bad in the film. By
No,
any means, really.
absolutely not. But it would lend that particular scene.
But I think he just comes across as someone who's grown up in this like weird world.
He's just immensely lonely, isn't he?
Yeah, but as in like all of his frames of reference are completely like crooked. So, you know, he thinks of everything as good guys and bad guys because you know, he's grown up. It's not because he's read comics, it's because his parents don't know how to tell him that some people eat each other. Yeah.
Well, they have told him that.
Well, they have eventually, yeah.
I like the carry the fire thing. That's quite good.
Yeah.
Do you carry the fire? It's a good McCarthyism. I think this is a Joe Sherwood anecdote for you, if you've ever heard one. I was at Glastonbury watching Editors. They've got the style of singing, which is post Joy Division. They debuted a song called No Sound But the Wind, which was obviously about the road. And it has lines like, "We can never go home, son, we no longer have one," and "No Sound But the Wind," and other things like that. It's obviously a song about that.
Yeah.
And they never released it as a single, so I've only got it in a bootlegged version of that Glastonbury set, and it's a really, really good song.
Okay.
And years later, I saw that it had been released on Spotify. No Sound But the Wind by Editors. And I listened to it, and they've changed a lot of the lyrics, and I was like, what's going on here? Do you know why they changed it?
Why?
Because they rewrote it as the soundtrack for Twilight. So a song originally written about the road and using the words of Cormac McCarthy has been rewritten to suit Edward and Bella.
Is now the words of Stephanie Meyer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blimey. What does that tell us?
Got some emails, mate.
Okay. Please go ahead.
First one's from Aaron. And again, this is another one where I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. I've told these people before, these listeners, to spell out phonetically, but this is, I don't know, Erhan. Listening to the podcast and enjoying it, especially the beginning of Annihilation, which made me laugh until I cried. It's like I'm criticising the movie with my friends.
I can't remember what the start of Annihilation
That's why I listened to it.
Right.
There's two things that are quite funny.
Okay.
There's one part where it's you talking over like the
Right.
soundtrack, and you're like, there's nothing left. Right? And then when we start talking, we pretend that we are taking on the traits of each other, which is quite funny.
Right.
But it didn't make me laugh till I cried.
Sounds genius.
Anyway,
I must say.
Aaron goes on, it's like I'm criticising the movies with my friends.
Mm.
Well, we are your friends.
I think that was sort of the idea of the podcast originally, wasn't it? It was basically just that chat that you have with your mates when you've been to the cinema and you go to the pub afterwards, right?
Yeah.
That was what we planned.
That's how it happened, because we were talking about It Follows.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So Ehan recommends As Above, So Below from 2014.
Okay.
It's been recommended a few times.
Is that the Paris one? Paris set in the Paris catacombs.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a found footage film.
Great. We love those.
Yeah. Your favourite.
They keep making them.
I know. Can't stop them.
I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. Keep up the good work.
Thanks very much, Aaron.
Another here from Helen. Hi, Joe and Chris. Hope you're both well. We are well. Thank you very much for asking. Hope you're well as well. This refers to Bird Box.
Okay.
She and her husband enjoyed it, but they couldn't imagine their children doing as they were told, which is a particular thing that happens in Bird Box. And their youngest would have been running around like a loon after 2 minutes and demanding snacks.
Right.
So not too different to what happens, I suppose. But they're, I mean, like, it's like herding cats, isn't it? For Sandra Bullock in that movie. But Helen recommends Mother, Darren Aronofsky's follow-up to Black Swan.
Yeah, I think so.
And Cam, which is on Netflix.
Yeah, I've seen a lot.
It's the Cam Girl one, right?
Right, I've seen a lot of. It's written by by a cam girl as well. I
Really?
believe. Yeah, and I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, I've had it
And
recommended by a mutual friend of ours who said it's very good.
And apparently it's very like Hitchcockian psychological imposter thriller type thing. Which sounds right up our street. So we should make it our business to
do it,
to tune into that one.
All right. Well, Helen, consider Cam added to the list. Mother.
Yeah.
Do you know much about it?
Yes.
I think it has to be pronounced Mother.
Mother.
Anyway, thanks for the weekly entertainment, says Helen. You're warm and welcome. So
Yeah, thank you very much
for your email. Another email here from Riley, who says, "Hello, Joe and Chris. The subject line is solve a problem of mine."
Okay.
Hello, Joe and Chris. I've been listening to the podcast for a few months now. Big fan.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I'm just not paying attention, but I can't seem to place who is who when listening. No offense, but you two sound remarkably similar. The only person that could be offended by that is me, of course. To settle it once and for all, I'll use your marathon videos as a visual reference.
Yeah.
And I think he's now looked and he says, "Is the one with the beard Chris or Joe? Thank you for helping my idiocy. While I'm here, I'll also request you to cover Hellfest from 2018, which is a festival in France, I think.
Yeah, but it is also the name of a horror movie set at a festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing. Another recent mediocre teen horror film that has quite a few ridiculously stupid decisions made by its characters. It does sound like...
Right up our street.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers,
Yeah.
Riley. So
what was the question that she asked?
Here, Riley?
Yes. She said something about beards.
Is Riley a boy's name or a girl's name?
It's both, isn't it? I think.
I don't know who is Riley.
Who is Riley?
Riley, are you a boy or a
Hashtag
girl?
who is Riley?
Yeah, right. Well, Riley, be you a man or a woman, we'll answer your question now.
Yeah.
I'm Joe,
Yeah.
and you're Chris.
Yeah.
And we both have a beard. We
Yes.
both wear glasses.
So the answer to is Chris or Joe the one with the beard? The answer is yes.
Yeah. So the reason our voices are so similar is because we have the same accent.
Yeah.
We grew up one street over from each other.
Pretty much, yeah.
In Hampshire. There's nothing distinguishing about our voices.
No.
They are vanilla.
We're the sort of I think we're the sort of people who we think we don't have an accent.
Yeah.
But in our voices are an accent.
Of course, all voices have an accent.
You know,
Yeah, everyone has an accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for your email.
This is my radio voice. If I
Yeah.
used my real voice, you wouldn't be able to understand.
No,
that.
exactly.
It's a thick accent.
Yeah. But thank you very much for your email,
Yeah.
Riley. And I hope that clears it up.
Yeah. How would you explain to people how they, other than like listening when we say our names? How would you? Is there a good way? Like, do you think I'm the mumbly one? I mumble a lot.
Basically, if they're saying something insightful and interesting, then it's me.
Right. And if they're mumbling and spluttering, it's me.
And going, actually, the book is better, then it's Joe.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, whatever. Sorry if I prefer high art.
Literature, yeah.
Because of course movies can never be high art. How's that film studies degree treating you?
It's been doing all right, actually. It's done me pretty well.
It has. You host a podcast listened to by at least 3 people.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much for listening this week, guys.
Yeah, that email address, if you want to get in touch and have your emails poured over, is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. You can also get in touch via Twitter @howtosurvivepod. And next week, it's the start of the long-awaited, much-trailed martial arts season. And so this is pretty much off the back of the fact that you've decided to subject yourself to MMA training.
Yeah.
How's that going?
So far, so good. I'm trying to get in 4 or 5 hours a week. Very intense.
Yeah. And any war wounds?
I've had a black eye. I mean, at the moment, I've got a few bruises on my arms.
Yeah.
From grappling.
Could be from anything.
Could be, but I know what it's from.
Yeah.
It's good fun.
Yeah?
It is.
Well, that is the main thing.
You have to give up the unwillingness to be punched in the head a lot.
Yeah.
But once you get over that, it's fine.
Great.
It really helps me with my diction on the radio.
Yes, absolutely. A swollen mouth.
Yeah.
Martial arts season kicks off next week.
Yeah.
With the 2000 Ang Lee film, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, one of the martial arts classics.
Yeah, and follows up the following week with Gareth Evans and his 2008,
2011, I think it was.
Around there.
Yeah,
The Raid.
I must say, The Raid is a masterpiece.
I watched the trailer for it today.
Yeah,
Oh
it is
God,
so good.
saw it at the cinema,
And
and I wish I was in the cinema now watching it.
I can't wait to rewatch it.
Yeah, if I could throw myself off a mountain with one wish,
Yeah.
it would be to watch The Raid in the cinema
The
again.
thing is, mate, is that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, right? It's a
Yeah.
good film. It's a bit out of our wheelhouse, but we'll get to that next week. It's not going to help you, is it, in the MMA ring? Whereas The Raid is a guide to MMA.
Yeah.
It's a guide to not being killed. The Raid is. And I can't wait to cover it. It's been I think we've had the idea of covering it for some time, so I can't wait to watch it again. But also next week we've got to get out of the way this stupid Chinese film. So.
Right. Xenophobic Chris next week on the How to Survive podcast.
Yeah.
See you then. And until next time, keep on smiling.
Keep the fire alive.
Keep the fire alive. I like it.